who speaks to whom, which language? Now, when we are trying to understand bilingualism, actually, what we are trying to do is trying to determine who speaks to whom and which language and how do they code switch and why do they do that. So what we try to understand is actually variation in multilingual context. So from individual interactions of bilinguals, we try to understand variations across multilingual contexts. Now, in the coming modules, we will be covering a number of topics, and these topics relate to exactly this issue. So, we try to address the problem of systemizing and categorizing data. We have already talked about how to define a bilingual, how to try to identify the degree of his or her bilinguality. Having said that, please remember that more often than not, it is bilinguality that has been studied more than bilingualism because of different problems, especially because of the inability to systemize the data and make sense of it. And this is exactly what we would like to sort of explore more. How do we actually try to identify different patterns of code switching or the use of languages by bilinguals? So we will be focusing more on descriptive and analytical variables. Now, as we do this discussion, please think about your own research topics and remember that this description of variables or the indicators or the differences that define your bilinguality in people and in situations, and these analytical categories are extremely important to understand because when you do your research, you will need them to operationalize your own research. Now, when we want to understand who speaks what language to whom and when, we try to understand actually how does bilingualism work and what are the different functions that are performed both at social and individual levels. Why does it actually happen? Does it somehow benefit the bilinguals to code switch? And or is it simply because they do not have full control on either of the languages that they move from one language to the other? Think of your own bilinguality. Think of when do you code switch. So it would be very good to keep a diary or in your with yourself and try at the end of a day at least, try to figure out when did you actually use alternate languages consciously and why did you do it? For instance, it is a possibility that you might use even a regional language in a formal office setting. Although not everyone can do it, but someone at managerial level or the one holding a meeting might somehow condescend to use this regional language because the purpose of that person is not only to link with you officially, but also to make connection or to connect with the people over there and to give them a sense of ownership and to create this bonding social capital, which is extremely important for organizations. So what we are saying is that who speaks which language to whom? Of course, it is to a certain extent might be subconscious, but at times it is also conscious. But whether conscious or subconscious, they do have some sort of pattern. So we would like to see this pattern in a relatively stable multilingualism in a given context, and we will focus on intra-group multilingualism rather than intergroup multilingualism. That is, we will think about, and all the discussion that we will do will be about a group that has the same L1, but they also speak a second language. So we will try to see how individual interactions have an impact on and how to develop patterns of wider social contexts. So habitual choice, we are saying, of language is not just habit, there's much more. What about the group? What about the situation influence? What about the choice itself? These are the issues that we'll explore in the coming modules.